Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 245 of Bill Man the Sport Guys podcast. I'm your host, Bill Man the Sports Guy. Always remember to stay tuned in for the latest weekly news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, WNBA. This is the podcast to be. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Bill Man Sports, Instagram at Bill Man Sports Guy, and here on YouTube at Bill Man Sports Guy. All right. Today's episode is coming out early. It is also because the NBA trade deadline has come to an end, and I figured I'd do this in one separate episode just to give you all my thoughts on some of the trades that have happened. We got at least five NBA trades to talk about, and then we got another four that involve the Chicago Bulls because what on earth are the Chicago Bulls doing? All right, so let's not waste any time. Let's start off with the one trade that still has me confused, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers have acquired James Harden and the Los Angeles Clippers acquire Darius Garland and a future second round pick. So the future second round pick basically means it could be this year's 2026, it could be 2027, so forth. So for better context on for those who may not understand what future second round pick means, I'm very confused on both sides, especially for Cleveland because Darius Garland has been one of their most solid players over the past like 5 seasons since he's joined Cleveland. But on another hand, they end up trading him to the Los Angeles Clippers, who are actually now fighting for a wild card spot for James Harden, who has not been anywhere near the prime he was during his time with the Houston Rockets. I really don't understand because does Harden help the Cavaliers win a championship? Not really. I just think James Harden, maybe there's something left in the tank, but Darius Garland, could he be a big piece for the Clippers going forward? Sure. I just don't understand this trade at all from both teams' point of view. I mean, even Cleveland's like fourth in the Western Division with a 31-21 record. They're 7 games back of the first place Detroit Pistons, but I don't understand. But if it has to shake up the team, then I guess that's fine. But that was my first thought is that I was just confused on both sides. Now we're gonna go to we got at least two of the earlier trades to talk about. The first one is going to involve Chris Paul. He is going away from LA. The LA Clippers shenanigans has finally come to an end. They're trading Chris Paul to the Toronto Raptors. Now, this is a three-team trade. Brooklyn Nets are going to receive Ochai Agbaji, a 2032 second round pick. And then the Clippers are going to get the rights to Vanja Marinkovic. Now, let's go from both teams' point of view, or all three teams to be exact. Number one, Marinkovic. He was originally drafted in 2019 with the final pick by the Sacramento Kings, but then his rights got traded to the Los Angeles Clippers in 2022. And then 2024, his rights were traded to the Nets as part of the trade with the Suns. But then his rights got traded back to the Clippers. So I can't comment on that part too much. Although I saw some of his highlights from overseas, and he seems a really solid basketball player, can shoot threes at a very decent rate. And I like how he drives the net and how he rebounds. And he's also a good ball stealer. So I'm hoping we'll see him play in the NBA with the Los Angeles Clippers, but he is 29, so only time will tell. Now, as for Chris Paul, I hope he'll play a game with the Toronto Raptors, but reading some reports, it may look like the Raptors might outweive him. And if they do, it's a shame because the Raptors are currently fifth in the Eastern Conference. They are only 7.5 games back of first place, but they're still going to make the playoffs at the end of the day. And that might be his last chance to get a championship ring in the NBA. but we'll see what happens from there. Now, the next trade I wanted to talk about is Jock Landale is going to the Atlanta Falcons in a three-team trade. It also involves Lonzo Ball going from Cleveland to the Utah Jazz. Now, on the trade tracker and reading online, it doesn't say what value Cleveland's going to get in return, which doesn't make any sense. So who knows? But in terms of Lonzo Ball going to Utah, along with two future second round picks from Cleveland, I did read that Ball is expected to be waived from the Utah Jazz. So this trade really feels like a throwaway from Cleveland's point of view. And I don't understand their thought process, especially if they were playing fourth place. Lonzo Ball not having the greatest season with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we'll see where he signs after the Jazz cut him. Now, as for Atlanta, as for Jock Landale, I think he's a really solid player, very good, solid shooter, drives to the net, rebounds very well. I like that. And I think this is really going to help out Atlanta with Landale. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is the Golden State Warriors have acquired Kristaps Porzingis from the Atlanta Hawks for Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga. Now, from Atlanta, they are currently fighting for a wild card. They're ninth with 12 and a half games back at first place. So adding Kuzminga and Buddy Hield is going to help Atlanta still compete for a wild card position. So I like that from their point of view. Now, as for Golden State in the Western Conference, Golden State is eighth, so they're also in a wild card spot, but adding Kristaps Porzingis, along with Steph Curry, who's one of the greatest NBA players of all time, I think I like this from Golden State's point of view because adding Porzingis, someone who's also won a championship with the Boston Celtics back in 2022, this really does help, and I like this a lot from or 2024, sorry. But my point is adding Porzingis, somebody who's won a championship, to a talented Golden State Warriors roster, I think is going to help. Even though, I mean, Golden State, they're still a really good team, but they're nowhere near like compared to the Oklahoma City Thunder, even the San Antonio Spurs and the Denver Nuggets. Now, as for the Atlanta Hawks, Porzingis, losing him will hurt, but Hield and Kuzmenga should make up for what they've lost with Porzingis. All right, next up, the next trade we got to talk about involving the Dallas Mavericks. Oh boy. So it's a three-team trade between the Washington Wizards, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets get Malaki Branham. The Dallas Mavericks get Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Tyus Jones. The Washington Wizards get Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum, Anthony Davis. Now, from Charlotte's point of view, I'm not going to comment on Charlotte too much because I'm not familiar with Malaki Branham. I'm not familiar with his game style, but only time will tell on how I think he'll do with Charlotte. Now, it's crazy to know that Washington is going to get Anthony Davis a little over a year after the Anthony Davis-Luka Doncic swap. So poor Anthony Davis, the guy got traded twice in the past year. I mean, Anthony Davis to a Washington Wizards team who is not doing great this season. Honestly, if Washington can make more moves in the offseason and show some true competitiveness in the Eastern Conference, I think Washington, let's keep an eye on them, not just for the rest of this season, but in the offseason and how much better they'll be next season. And I think he'll really help them going forward. And as for D'Angelo Russell, because Washington does need shooting, and Russell's actually a solid shooter. Now, not familiar with Exum, but I think he'll be a good piece going forward. Now, as for Jaden Hardy, good solid ball movement, good player all around. I think he's going to pan out just fine. Now, as for the Dallas Mavericks, at this point, This team is such a mess. Nico Harrison completely destroyed the Dallas Mavericks within more than excuse me, with like more than a year. Lost to the NBA Finals to the Boston Celtics in 2024. 2025 was the Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis trade, and man, I don't understand this at all. Chris Middleton, fine veteran, but I don't think he'll do much for Dallas, who is near the bottom of the NBA. AJ Johnson, Tyus Jones, both of them together, I think they're going to be good pieces that I think the Mavericks are going to look to keep around for now and to build around Cooper Flag. But this screams that Dallas is going to go for the top three again in the NBA draft. So the Dallas Mavericks have just ruined their team from the past last year. So, all right, now let's go into the Chicago Bulls trades because boy, oh boy, do I have some thoughts. And I'll give you my overall thoughts. But for the NBA trade deadline, I still thought it brought us some surprises. So I can at least be happy about that as a basketball fan. All right, let's not waste any time and just go to the Chicago Bulls trades. First of all, the Bulls acquired Mike Conley Jr., Jalen Ivey. Now, this is a three-team trade. That's what the Bulls get. The Detroit Pistons get Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric, and a 2026 first-round pick from Minnesota. And the Minnesota Timberwolves get cash considerations. Minnesota's another interesting team, so but we'll talk about them going forward because they did also make moves with the Chicago Bulls. But Herder and Saric, very good bench players, very good depth, and I think they're really going to help out the Detroit Pistons because who seriously had the Detroit Pistons leading the Eastern Conference? Not me, and they've been a surprise team this season. Now, Mike Conley Jr. will eventually get traded away from the Chicago Bulls. So unfortunately, he wasn't a Bull for too long. Jalen Ivey, not familiar with him, but I hope the Bulls see something that they could turn him out to be like, hope they could make him into a superstar because I'll explain why near the very end. The Nikola Vucevic trade rumors have finally come to an end as the Chicago Bulls would trade him to the Boston Celtics for Anfernee Simons. Anfernee Simons played okay with Boston, but I think he'll be a very good addition to the Chicago Bulls. I think he's a very good rebound player, and if he keeps improving his game, I think he'll be one of the best Bulls players in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, as for Vucevic, the Celtics, Boston, you guys are going to get a solid veteran who is chasing for an NBA championship. And honestly, Niko Vucevic, thank you for all your contributes in the Chicago area. I wish you nothing but the best of luck in Boston. Vucevic, during his tenure with the Bulls, even this season, he was doing pretty solid for them this season. Now, the next one. Actually, we'll go to one right now because the last two had me scratching my head. The Chicago Bulls get Gershon Yabusele. I apologize if I said it wrong. From the New York Knicks in exchange for Dalen Terry. It's honestly a shame. I'm rooting for Dalen Terry because he really had some potential, but the Bulls just hardly played him some nights. And this season looked like he was finally getting his chance. So I'm rooting for Dalen Terry, and I hope he'll truly come to his potential with the New York Knicks. Now, Yabusele, again, I apologize if I said it wrong. We'll see how he does with the Chicago Bulls. I think he'll be a fine player, but this trade doesn't excite me too much. Same with the next two because those two had me angry and literally scratching my head. First of all, the Chicago Bulls have sadly traded Kobe White along with Mike Conley Jr. to the Charlotte Hornets. The Bulls get Colin Sexton, Dosmain Jang, and 3 second-round picks out of like 14 we've gotten overall. Oklahoma City Thunder also played a part of this trade, and they're just going to get cash considerations. Now, Mike Conley Jr. will get waived, and he's going to re-sign with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm rooting for Kobe White. Going back to Charlotte, near where he went to college in North Carolina. And honestly, good for the Charlotte Hornets. They are, at the time of this recording, Charlotte is 10th, and adding Kobe White, who has really improved the past 3 seasons with the Chicago Bulls. It really stinks to see him go, and I'm rooting for him in Charlotte. I'm honestly a little bit upset about it. Now, this next one, I was very angry and very upset when this trade happened. The Chicago Bulls trade homegrown talent Io DeSumo and Julian Phillips to the Minnesota Timberwolves. In exchange, the Bulls are going to get Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, 4 second-round picks. So, again, I don't understand the Bulls' thought process. I mean, Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, sure, I hope they pan out, but I'm not gonna lie, this one really hurt to see Io DeSumo go, especially that he's from Illinois, got a chance to play with his hometown team, and then now he's going to a new team in the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm really not happy about this, but I think DeSumo is really going to help the Minnesota Timberwolves a lot. They're actually 8 games back from first place in the Western Conference Division, along with the Los Angeles Lakers, Houston Rockets. But this one really hurts. I think DeSumo's really going to help. I think he's going to thrive awesome with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Io, if you're watching this, I'm rooting for you. I really appreciate all the effort you put in a Chicago Bulls uniform, and I really hope you do well for Minnesota. I'll be rooting for you. So, honestly, this just recaps my entire thoughts on the NBA trade deadline, especially with the Chicago Bulls, because listen, out of all my favorite sport teams, the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago White Sox, I'm very desperate to see both of those teams win a championship. But right now, the White Sox actually improved last year. Hopefully, they'll improve more this year. So at least they're taking the right steps. The problem with the Bulls, and this also goes to along with general manager, well, head coach Billy Donovan, general manager Mark Eversley. Um, I don't understand. I really, really don't. The past 3 seasons, the Chicago Bulls have frustrated me. In one way, the Bulls have been like, hey, we might as well tank for the rebuild. But then when we're near the playoffs, the Bulls immediately go like, quick, everybody, we gotta contend for the playoffs. Whoa, we make the wild card. You know who's eliminated us 3 straight times? The Miami Heat. I just don't understand. And what also hurts, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, Io DeSumo, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Nikola Vucevic, Patrick Williams, who's still there, Javonte Green. On one hand, I legit thought, even Andre Drummond, when he was here in Chicago, what hurts is after the 21-22 season, I legit thought the Bulls were finally back, finally had a chance to compete for an NBA championship because the Bulls have not won since 1998. You know who was on that team? Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, John Paxson, Tony Kukoc. I can go on. Billy Donovan is such a mid coach. I don't understand why he's not fired yet. And I don't understand why the Bulls didn't do this during the offseason. And they could have also moved on for Patrick Williams' contract. Boy, could that have saved us some free cap space. I gotta admit, I'm frustrated on the Chicago Bulls. This team cannot pick a direction. And it looks like they finally picked the rebuild, but is it too late? Because all over Twitter, all over Instagram, there were even clips from the Cap and J Hood show. Shout out to both of them, by the way. Both of them had some Bulls fans on the call. Rightfully so, they're furious. Like, what is going on? I just don't understand. Um, this actually recaps today's episode. Today's episode was just basically NBA trade deadline recap. Anyway, I'm Bill Man, the sports guy. Always remember, latest weekly news of the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, WNBA. This is a podcast to beat. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Um, Also, by the time this comes up, the Super Bowl will be around the corner. So go Seahawks. Yeah, peace out.